Hey guys, Jordan here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how I got kicked out of university and the lessons that you can learn from that. But first things first, as usual, like, comment, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, and let's get started with this video. So first of all, yes, it's completely true, I got kicked out of university. And I'm going to go more onto that in a little bit, but first of all I want to talk to you guys about my relationship with the education system, my love-hate relationship with it. Now, I wasn't a naughty boy in school. I didn't get in an awful lot of trouble, no more than the average young lad. But I was that kid on parents' evening. I was that kid when your parents had to come into school and sit down with the teacher and they'd talk about your progress. I was the one where they'd say, "Oh, Jordan's got so much potential. If only he tried harder. If only he paid more attention. If only he was more engaged, then he would have so much more potential." And that was the story of my life throughout education. That was always the comment that any teacher would make about me. I wasn't engaged enough, I didn't try enough, I didn't pay enough attention, I was easily distracted. That was me. And it was because I wasn't genuinely interested in what I was being taught. Even from a very, very young age, I remember I couldn't stand having teachers stand there and just tell me things. Just, this is black and white, this is ABC, black and white, this is that. Facts, figures, I couldn't stand it all. Like, that was not my way of learning at all. It did not engage me at all. In fact, like, I was useless at sports. Like, there wasn't an awful lot I was good at as a kid. I was useless at sports, like completely hopeless. Like, I remember I used to play football every single Sunday. My dad, like, I think my dad just wanted me to play football or something when I was young, because he used to take me to football like every single Sunday in a local village. And I played for like 3 years, and I only scored like one goal, like throughout them 3-year period. Like, I was the guy that they'd like leave on defence till the last 5 minutes, and then they'd drag me on and be like, "Oh, Christ's sake, Jordan's playing." So there was this one time when my dad, he drove me 3 hours to this football game. And I scored the first goal of the season because one of the guys on my team kicked the ball, it bounced off my face and into the goal. Bear in mind, this ball was already going in the goal, but it just like deflected off my face and just made sure it was going in. Like, the guys worshipped me. Like, I was picked up, I was thrown about, and the rest of the game I played like awfully, and like by the end of it, like, everyone hated me. And my dad just was like, "Do you know what? You've had your try, son. Maybe football isn't for you." And I just didn't play football again after that. And then afterwards, I tried karate, I tried fencing, like sword fighting. I was useless at both of them again. And in fact, the only sport that I was remotely good at was table tennis. But I don't know if I was going to get into the Olympics with a half decent table tennis skill set. So yeah, I was hopeless at sports. But I was engaged in creative lessons, in creative subjects such as art, such as drama, such as technology, woodwork, metalwork, hands-on things, cooking. Subjects where I could actively engage and I could use my creative side, use the creative side of my brain. Like, I remember I used to sit in class, I'd sit in maths class, and my mind would just wander. My mind would wander all day about getting home and, I don't know, playing on a game or going out with my friends or what I was going to do on the weekend. My mind would just wander all the time, and those creative subjects managed to subdue my mind in a way that I could run freely. I could draw what I wanted to. I could make what I wanted to in technology. I could cook what I wanted to, and I wasn't being told that this is black and white, this is how you do things, this is how you've got to do it, this is the textbook, you need to study this. I could run freely, my mind would run freely, and I could be creative with those subjects, and that's why I was engaged in them. So I got through primary school, pretty average results. I actually started high school in like an average class group, and this was the age where people started to want things. This is where I started to realise, I started to figure out my why. I started to figure out what I wanted in life. I had quite a well-off group of friends. Not all of them, but some of them were quite well off. Their families had a fair bit of money, and they always seemed to get what they wanted. They had the new phones, they had the designer clothes, they had what they wanted. Now, my family were fairly well off too. They weren't rich. They definitely weren't rich, but they were well off. More well off than the majority of people in the school. But I was not giving everything I wanted. Like, at no stretch of the imagination. Now, don't get me wrong, like, this is not me saying I didn't get what I needed when I was young. I got absolutely everything I needed when I was a kid, but not everything I wanted. And as a kid, I resented my parents for that. I did. I resented my parents for the fact that, why don't I have the new iPhone? Why don't I have them brand new clothes? Why can't I have everything I want? Like, such and such down the road gets bought everything he wants to. And I almost resented them for it. But now I am extremely thankful, and I understand the reasons why they did that. I understand the reasons why I wasn't spoiled as a kid. I understand the reasons why, because I learnt that I valued money. I learnt that I needed to go out and work for things myself. And when I actually could afford to buy things myself, it was so much more fulfilling than being brought them. And I am so thankful that my parents did that when I was younger, that they didn't pander to me, that they didn't give me everything I wanted. They gave me everything I needed, but not everything I wanted. I'm so thankful that they did that, because it taught me the value of money. So even from when I remember when I was right in the start of high school, I had this desire for money. I wanted nice things. I wanted nice clothes. I wanted new games. I wanted a new bike. I wanted new things. So I did anything I could to make money. Now, your average school kid, your average entrepreneurial school kid, you've heard it 1,000 times before, I sold sweets. I used to have Pokemon cards, and what I would do is I would draw them on like an A4 piece of paper, and I would sell them to people in school for £1 a pop, which is like, that was a lot of time. It used to take me a couple of hours to draw these things, and I'd sell it for only £1. But I used to do that throughout my first year of high school. Now, when I reached 13, I got a paper round job. So I would go around my local village. I wake up about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock every morning, and I would deliver papers by hand on my bike. Well, before I had a bike, I would just go by hand, and I would deliver papers to everybody in the village, and I would get paid £15 a week for doing that, and I would do it like 6-7 days a week. So like, that's not much money at all, but back then, like, that was loads of money. Like, I loved it. When I was 14, I started working as a pot washer. I'd go to school Monday through to Friday. I would work Friday nights. I'd be scrubbing pots in my local pub. So I'd work Friday night, Saturday day, Saturday night, Sunday lunch. I'd go into my local city on the Sunday night, and I'd spend everything that I earned on like one t-shirt or something, because I was materialistic. That was what I wanted back then. That was because I was earning money, and more money than my friends were, and I just wanted to enjoy spending it. And I got this hunger for money, and this hunger for earning more. Now, throughout school, I've gone back on a tangent then, but going back to topic, throughout school, I didn't pay much attention, not an awful lot of attention at all. I hadn't revised a single day in my life. So when I'd done my GCSEs, which are in the UK, they are your end of high school. Your tests, the tests you take and the grades you get, so you know where you can go in college. I got fairly decent grades, although I hadn't actually revised for anything, which maybe reverts back to the whole I had so much potential thing by older teachers. If I actually paid attention, I wonder what I actually could have done. But I managed to get good grades, to be fair, but I didn't revise at all. I wasn't interested, and I wasn't particularly bothered whether I did or not. And then I reached that point where everybody's putting pressure on you as someone who's just finished high school, or just about to finish. When everyone's putting pressure, your parents, your teachers are putting pressure that you need to start thinking about a career. You need to think about what you need to do in life, what you want to be. Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a pilot? Do you want to be a builder? What do you want to be in life? You need to think about this so you can go to university. And there was so much pressure on going on university. You need to go to university if you want to be successful in life. Like, that was the done thing. You have to be successful if you want to go. You have to go to university if you want to be successful. So I spoke to my dad and said, what can I do? What can I do to earn money? What job earn a lot of money? And he said, when I was younger, I wanted to be an architect. And he talked to me about an architect. Now, for those of you that don't know what an architect is, an architect is someone who designs, they draw buildings, and they do this for building contractors, for personal contractors, and they draw all the framework of a building, scale drawings. They plan the building out so a building contractor can take it and build it. And those architects, fully qualified architects who've been working for a long time, get paid an awful lot of money. I was looking with my dad, and they were getting paid like £60,000 to £150,000. If they own their own practice, then like much more than that. And I was like, this is what I want to do. It's creative. I like creative subjects. I like art. I like the idea of building things, and I want money. So I went through college taking subjects which were like to architecture, which would get me into a degree. So I'd done 3D design, I'd done media studies, I'd done graphic design, and I got into university. So I got into university and I was very open-minded. I was ready to start making money. I was ready to start working hard. I thought, do you know what? I need to start knuckling down. I know I don't get on with education, but this is an arty subject. I can work hard and I can make this work for me. But when I started university, it was so much further than what I thought it was going to be. It was, and I can't speak for all university courses, but the course that I took was very, very rigid, okay? My creative side could not come out. My tutors were very, very strict. I would come up with some really wacky, I've got a very wacky mind. I'm very out of the box. All of my designs, all of the buildings I would design were very, very out of the box. And my tutors just didn't like my style. Like, I could just tell they didn't like my style. And I grew very frustrated with the subject. I grew very, very frustrated because I found it very, very rigid and I couldn't be very creative. And one day I was sitting there on my Mac and I was looking into architecture and I realised that I had to study 7 years. So after my initial degree, I had to study for 7 years to be fully qualified. Now, this comes down to my poor judgment and my poor education beforehand. I didn't educate myself on this, but I didn't realise that you needed to study for 7 years to become a fully qualified architect. Then I started diving in deeper, looking at wages. So I'd be 27 years old when I left university. And I was looking at all these wages, thinking at like how much money could I be earning. And the average architect just out of university, fresh out of education system, was earning £25,000 a year. And this is when I had a big wall. I had this big realization that like, I'm not working for 7 years of my life, spending £9,000 a year on university fees for 25 grand a year. Like, I was like, screw that. I am not working 7 years for £25,000. And overnight, I completely lost love with the subject. It was a huge, huge turning point in my life. And I kind of went on this downward spiral. I stopped turning up to classes. I would skip a couple of classes every single week. My coursework was half-assed. I had to resit my second year, sorry. And everything was half-assed. I wasn't turning up on time, and my motivations turned to money again. My motivations turned to, right, if I'm not going to do architecture, then how can I make money? How can I start making some money? I started a clothing brand, which didn't work out. And by the way, these businesses, I will go into more detail to these on another video. I'm not going to go into detail on these videos because I want to go onto that in a much more in-depth video on the other previous businesses I've had before, which have failed. But I started this clothing brand. It didn't really work out. I was a bit half-assed with it all. But one thing I did enjoy at university, like most university students, is going out and partying and the social element. Because when you're at university, there's a huge, huge, huge part of it is the social aspect, is the going out, is meeting new people, is communicating with people, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I got into this circle of people, and I got this job as a flyer. I was flyering for nightclubs on the evening. So I would be like in university in the daytime, and at night time I'd be out handing out flyers. And I really enjoyed it actually. And I learned very quickly that I was good at speaking to people. I was very good at communicating with people and persuading them to come into the nightclub. And I got in the right circle of people, and I worked my way up to the point that I actually created my own events company. So I didn't create it like straight away myself. I was working with someone else, but eventually it was mine. Eventually they left, and I wholeheartedly owned the events business. And what I was doing, long story short, is I was running nightclub events for nightclubs in my local city 4 nights a week. So I was doing Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays. Now this is at 2 different nightclubs in my local city. We were doing it free at some point, but it was 2 for the long haul. And I would take all of the money from the door. So imagine you go to a nightclub, you pay the guys at the door £10 to get in. I would take all of that money, and then the nightclub would make all of the money from the bar. So it was this like-for-like, business-to-business relationship, and I absolutely loved it. I felt like a celebrity in university. Everybody knew who I was. Everybody wanted to come into the clubs, and everybody wanted to be my mate, and it was a really, really great time. I made some excellent friends during that period. In fact, this house right now I share with one of my absolute best friends who I made during that period of time. So it was a really great time of my life, and I was making some good money. I remember December, it would probably be about 3-4 years ago now. I was running 4 nights a week, and we were making like £200-400 a night each for these nightclub events. So we were making really, really good money, and I was still in university at this point. Now you can imagine spending all of my time out, like in nightclubs, partying. I wasn't doing an awful lot of university work, and I really, really did let things slip. I stopped turning up, and to cut a very long story short, I ended up getting removed from my university course. Completely kicked out. One year I came back to start my second half of my second year, and I got told that I was no longer welcome on the course. I was removed from my course. Now this was a huge kick in the face, and I don't know what I was expecting really. I should have been expecting it, because I wasn't putting the attention in. I wasn't turning up to lectures. I wasn't doing all my work. I'd completely lost love with university, but I was still going, and I was blocking it out because I was enjoying this high life, enjoying these nightclubs, enjoying these money that I was making. So when I got kicked out of university, it was a huge shock to the system, and I had this realization that I needed to do something with my life now. And without going into the politics of what went on with the university, I knew that I needed to do something with my life, or else I was stuffed. I was buggered. Like, I was no longer getting university loans. I was no longer... The only money I had was these nightclub events. And to really rub salt in the wounds, 2 weeks after being kicked out of university, my whole nightclub business fell to shit and fell to pot. Excuse my language. And it all went downhill, and I was really struggling for money. I had to get a job in a local restaurant serving. I mean, one point I remember living off like £20 a week for like 2 months. I had to borrow money for my rent. I really struggled. And I had this word with myself, and those of you that have watched my videos before will know that I said to myself back then, you need to start earning money. You need to settle. Stop trying to work for yourself. Maybe you need to get a job. Maybe you need to start a fulfilling career. Other people can do it, why can't you? And I looked into careers where I could make money, and I got into corporate sales, and you know the rest of the story. If you don't know the story, then I worked in corporate sales for a long time. I worked my way up the ranks. I earned a lot of money, and then I had this realization that, you know what, I'm not for this working life. I don't want to answer to anyone anymore. I want to work for myself. I started social media marketing. I quit my job. I am where I am today after working that period of time. And that's how I got kicked out of university. And each of those little elements, I am going to talk about them in much more greater detail in later videos, such as the businesses, such as my thought process when I was working full time, and how I got out of that job, and really in depth how I got out of it. But I wanted to make this video on how I got kicked out of university and my mindset. Now, the big question, do I regret getting kicked out of university? Do I regret going to university in the first place? And I categorically say, when everybody asks me this, no, I absolutely do not regret going to university. Not at all. Because every single thing I learned the biggest life lessons I've ever learned whilst going to university. I learned, and I found myself. I found the fact that I was a communicator. I found out that I could speak to people, I could influence people, I could teach people, and I could guide people, and I learnt that. I learnt the power of influence and the power of communication. I learnt that I have that skill set, and I'm telling you right now, like categorically, better than any degree, better than any qualification, better than any skill set you can have in your life. Communication skills are the best skill that you can have in your life, bar none. As an entrepreneur, being able to communicate with people is the most important skill set. And if you struggle communicating with people, I implore you, I strongly encourage you to work on your communication skills. Speak to people like me, reach out to me, send me a message. I will help you find your confidence and help you build your communication skills. And that's what university taught me. University taught me how to communicate with people. University taught me that what I wanted in life was to work for myself. University taught me that chasing what you think is initially right, chasing a job that you think is going to be fulfilling, chasing a job for the money, like architecture, is not the way to go. Like, and God forbid, if I went through university, if I went through with that architecture degree, and even if I was earning £60,000 a year, I would still be miserable because I'd still be working for someone else and I wouldn't have the freedom that I have today. And that's the end of this video, guys. I wanted to share this story with you. It dawned on me yesterday that I hadn't told my readers, my watchers, this story yet. Like, none of you actually knew that I got kicked out of university, and I just think it's because when I made this channel, I didn't want to play the university dropout card. So many online YouTube fanatics, YouTube gurus, whatever you want to call us, play that university dropout card, and I didn't want to do that. But it is a true story. I actually got kicked out of university, and no, I do not regret it. So that's the end of this video, guys. I'll be back again on Friday with a how-to video. I'll see you then. Cheers.